Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Blizzard Watch podcast. This is a podcast where we talk about Blizzard Entertainment, its mini games, and then some other games too if we feel like it and have time. Often it's and have time. In addition to myself, I'm Matt. We have Liz Harper, the site's grand high poobah and otherwise overall editor-in-chief. That's her job. That's who she is.
Hello.
Also, we have Joe Perez, who does practically everything to keep this show going, like record it and get it up, edit it, all that stuff. Hi, Joe.
Hello.
And as our special guest, we've confirmed before the podcast that he is still a guest and not actually a featured actor. But regardless, he's good. It's good that he's here. Phil Urich. Hi, Phil.
Hi.
Are you in any way related to the comic book character, Ben Urich?
No, because there's an L in my name that you're missing.
Okay.
It's Ulrich.
It's Ulrich.
But I'm also not related to any famous Ulrichs as far as I know.
Like Lars.
Yes, I can't.
You're lucky there. You dodged a bullet.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, now that I've slagged on the drummer from Metallica for absolutely no reason.
You're catching strays.
Yeah, I don't know what that was. This week, a lot of stuff happened. The week that just happened. I hope you understand we can't tell you what's coming in the future. If we could, we would. But unfortunately, I have not been strapped to a rock with my liver torn out or anything like that. So no gifts of prophecy. But nevertheless, we had a big reveal about Overwatch, Season 15. We had a whole big deal that they were telling us about. So this is an interesting thing. I have motion sickness, so I can only read Overwatch news and watch videos.
I have a question for you, Matt.
Go ahead.
Is the motion sickness thing based on it being a first-person game?
Yes, I can't go to third-person very effectively in it. I mean,
So-
there's, to a degree you can see your character moving, but it's not as much as I need.
But
I need it a little bit wider.
One of the things they announced at this big Overwatch 2025 event was that there's a new mode coming starting in Season 16 called Stadium. It's a new 5v5 mode, but probably the most interesting thing is that you can play it in third person.
Yeah, and believe me, that's an interesting thing for me because I mean, I'm not going to be a great Overwatch player ever. Blind people tend not to be really good at competitive shooters, but I do like the game enough that I would most likely play it if it didn't make me want to hurl.
Yeah,
in
that's
fact, unrelated to that, but I was just now realizing that it's amazing I've gotten through Cyberpunk because there's no way to switch it. You have that totally first person view, and it's a testament to just how much I love it that I basically just look down a lot. And it's like, oh no, don't look around me, don't look around, just look down. But regardless, what do you think other than that news? I mean, I guess there's loot boxes to talk about.
I mean,
the loot boxes are coming back.
Before we even get there, do you want to talk about the talent and perk thing that they're doing?
Yeah, but I figured we talk about that as a big deal, because it's a very big deal, isn't it?
It definitely is.
All right, go ahead, Joe.
Okay, or Liz, I think you were starting there, so otherwise I'll crack in because I have feelings about this.
Just not
about
me,
the perks?
'cause I don't know much about Overwatch.
Yeah, about the perks. Oh, well, I mean about the loot boxes too, but that's a whole other thing.
All right, here's what we'll do: Liz talk, and then Joe will talk. There.
Okay, well, I'll start with perks because it's first on this list I have in front of me. So perks sound like something we were promised for the PvE version of Overwatch, which never happened. And they're talents that you're going to get while you're playing the game. So you'll get a talent that might improve one thing or the other thing. You might get... so they're completely different for every hero, but frankly, it reminds me of Heroes of the Storm.
Yep.
Because you're going to play, you're going to level up, and it's like, oh, do I want to upgrade this thing in this direction or in that direction? And that's going to completely sort of change how you approach the game. It's going to change how you approach other heroes, how other heroes approach you. And I think it's really cool to add more modifications to any game. So this is a big thing. This is now live in Season 15. Now, jumping ahead to Season 16, when the Stadium mode shows up, it's going to have something that is a lot like perks, but with a different name called mods. So when you're playing in the Stadium, you can mod your character in different ways. That it's like perks, but it seems like there are more of them. You have more options and more ways to upgrade and change your gameplay. I think all of this is great. Being able to control how you play, modify how you play, I think that's great in absolutely every game. I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out.
Joe?
I think it is a horrible thing that ruins quick play and competitive and should not be introduced in anything outside of his standard, into any of the standard game modes. And I'm going to tell you why. This ruins a skill-based competitive experience, period. Because there's no, like, how do you get these perks? How often do you get them? Is one team able to pull ahead and get more perks than the other team, therefore increasing the gap and making it a absolutely lopsided experience that the other team can't come back from. Also, there are currently 42 heroes, which means that there's they said 168 perks at launch, with each hero having 2 minor and 2 major perks to choose from. Yeah. This creates a potential for massive imbalance, and combinations therein are also possible for massive imbalance. And again, in a game that is supposed to have a competitive mode that it relies around skill, that is a problem. In a game like Heroes of the Storm or League of Legends or any of the MOBA style games, that's completely different, where, like, I mean, Heroes of the Storm, you couldn't adjust your talents once you had them. That was it. You went them, you went a build, and you went there. In every other game that does something similar to this, everybody can dump their skills and rebuild it. And also your experience gaps, the game compensates for to try to keep people within a certain range of each other. Otherwise, the game just ends. Here, I think it completely alters the Overwatch experience into something that's not Overwatch. And it makes me not want to play the game. Even, like, I don't even want to pick it back up. And I think that it's a cool idea for individual game modes, but should not be part of quick play and should not be part of competitive. And I'm going to be very curious to hear what serious FPS gamers or people that were still pushing competitive, what they think about this, because it's going to alter that gameplay experience. Because again, you can't plan for what your opponents are going to do, even though it sounds like, oh, there's only 2 minors and 2 majors for everybody. That's still a lot to compensate for mid-match. And again, in a competitive game that relies on strategy and equal skill, or at least making it skill-based, it alters that game entirely. And again, this is my opinion, but I've seen other games in the past like this that have done similar things, and it completely ruins that experience because you can't build around it, you can't plan for it, you can't explain. And then what happens if you, like, do you keep those perk levels when you switch to another character? If you're in quick play, are you hard locked in competitive? Is there, a way to redo those if you pick the wrong thing? Sentiment wise, again, like in something like Stadium, fine. But the minute they said competitive, I'm like, this just doesn't make any sense. The game is not built around that, and it completely alters the experience. Especially with the other thing. I mean, there's another thing where and I'm just going to segue into it just real quick because I think it's relative here. They're adding this permanent 6v6 mode for competitive, and they already had a hard enough time balancing that the first time around. And now you're introducing 168 more variables into that. So it's a really cool concept, but I think it's going to make the game unplayable for a lot of people. Okay, I've ranted.
It is a balanced nightmare. It is... Like, I'm thinking about when World of Warcraft went and added the hero talents, and we're all looking at these and thinking, how are they going to balance this? This is so many extra talents. This is so many extra abilities, and it's like there's never going to be balanced. And kind of what happened in World of Warcraft is there's a best one to choose, and you choose it. That's kind of how it shook out. But this is a very different kind of game. You're looking at this, Joe, from a competitive angle, and I'm looking at it from a player angle because I don't do a lot of serious competitive gameplay. So that I look at it and say, oh, having more choices and getting to play in different ways sounds really interesting. But you're exactly right. This is going to be much more difficult to do counterplay and to just approach the game in a competitive. So, I mean, we'll see. 168 perks. I don't know. Is it possible to balance 168 perks?
Maybe. But I mean, also, the other thing about a hero shooter is you want to change your playstyle. You switch the hero you're on. Right? Like, if you have Mercy and your options are, okay, Mercy heals more or Mercy crit heals more often, you're not really changing the experience. You're claiming you are. You're just making an already annoying healer even more annoying to deal with, right? Or it could do something where instead of doing healing, she does an exponential more amount of damage. I remember when Mercy had like the highest damage cap in the game with her little pistol, and you could literally headshot somebody better than Widowmaker could, right? Like it's a weird position for them to be in here. And I think they're trying to refresh it and try to get people to come back and play the game.
Yeah.
But I just don't know if this is going to do what they wanted to do.
I think you guys are ignoring something, though.
And that would be?
You want to know what it is? I was curious if you wanted to know what it was. They've been doing stuff in their design that feels an awful lot like they're trying to backdoor in stuff they were talking about doing at BlizzCon 4 or 5 years ago. Like, I remember BlizzCon 2019. It's the last one, the only one I ever got to go to. I remember the Overwatch 2 trailer, and I remember all the discussion of what Overwatch 2 was going to be. And as Liz points out frequently, and rightly so, that didn't happen. We didn't get that. But it feels like they're kind of bringing in all the nuts and bolts for that kind of game.
Well, yeah, I think Liz mentioned that this was similar to what they
it's almost exactly what they said.
Yeah.
It's almost exactly the same. And so is the mods thing that's coming in for the other game mode. It's funny how it feels like there's like almost like a civil war in the Overwatch 2 team in terms of what game they are making. And I'm fascinated by this because I don't know if it's just a simple matter of, people are playing Rivals, what do we do? Or if it's a bigger, more elaborate dispute between visions for the game.
I don't know that they know what the game vision is anymore.
That's my point. I think there are at least 2 competing ones, and these teams are like not sure which one they're supposed to be designing for. Because this is the kind of thing that would be great for PvE. If there was or even if you just had like some kind of non-crazy, like imagine if you were doing a PvP thing, which was where you each were attempting to get to a place first, and you weren't fighting each other very much. Like imagine if you had Alterac Valley in Overwatch, like something where you're trying to each get to a location and do something there before the other team can get to another one. That was a very PvE focused battleground. Still is. I mean, I haven't played it in a while, but you still go and kill a guy. In situations like that, having that kind of choice could be interesting. So is that coming, or is this just a case of they had an idea and thought it would be interesting? I don't know, but I do think it's really convoluted to look at Overwatch right now and try to work out what's going on by the choices they make.
I feel like it's maybe less of an intentional design decision and more looking back on the game that was and all of the development time they spent trying to make single player work, trying to make PvE work, and saying, okay, we've got all of these perks that we set up, we've got these talents we were going to do. Can we take this work, this stuff we were working on, and use it? You do see game developers do that. You may not get the game that they were initially planning, but you may get parts of it. So I feel, I don't want to say scraping the bottom of the barrel. That's not the right term for this.
It might just be time crunch. If they feel like they have to get something out.
Out now?
You spend the time to try and develop a whole new feature that has nothing in common with anything you ever had. Or do you look back and go, hey, what if we took Path of the Titans and kind of did it different? Because we've had 6 or 7 Path of the Titans in WoW. We just never got Path of the Titans. But look, the artifact weapon, borrowed power systems kept coming back, and they were basically Path of the Titans. So yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying on that. Should we talk about the loot boxes?
Probably.
And how they're battle passy? Okay. So loot boxes, they're coming back, but they're basically on the battle pass, which means they're not like the old loot boxes at all.
So
I do love the headline that I think Anna must have given this. When I said Overwatch should just refer to a backup from 2019 already, I did not mean I wanted loot boxes on the battle pass. And I just love that headline, so I was going to repeat it.
Yeah, I just don't feel like anyone asked for this. And the thing is, loot boxes are on the free battle pass. So whereas previously the free battle pass had a list of rewards that you would get as you played through the battle pass, now you're going to play through the battle pass and get loot boxes, which give you random rewards that you may or may not want or be interested in or may not be great. So it feels like an extra an extra slap to PV. Oh, I hate using that word to PVE players.
Oh no.
I'm going all the wrong directions tonight. It just feels like it feels worse if you are a free player because
now you don't even know what you're going to get.
Yeah. And it's
the one good thing about a battle pass, free or not, is that you know what the next thing is. You
not
know
anymore.
What you're working for. You know what you're heading down the road on. And now they fixed that.
Yeah, last time I played Overwatch, there were loot boxes in it. I know exactly what you're going to get. A couple of sprays. Have fun.
A lot of this feels like they're panicking and going, "What? When Overwatch was top of the world, this is what we had. We got to put it back in there somehow."
And loot boxes. They loved loot boxes.
Yeah, and I'm also curious if they're going to be. I'm assuming that they're going to have to file the drop rates for things again with the various gaming commissions that are not in the United States. But this is such a baffling decision. I don't know what they think the goal is here. I am not going to be surprised if this dramatically drops purchasing of battle passes with paid tiers. Because if you don't know what you're getting, why are you going to give it money? Every other premium battle pass just shows you what you get.
Yeah.
Isn't that what the premium one
Isn't
does
that part of what battle passes evolved to do?
I may have misunderstood, but my understanding was that the premium one does show what you're getting. It's only the free players who are getting stuck with...
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's only the free tiers on the battle pass that get loot boxes. The paid tiers, you still get promised.
Anna in chat is saying that they're on both. Anna's saying they're on both.
Oh, well, okay.
Gross.
Okay.
So my point stands.
My point is just that didn't we get battle passes on weren't they designed to replace things like loot boxes? Wasn't that the goal?
No, so not specifically. So the thing with battle passes is there are battle passes that exist out there. Rocket League was one of them before they were bought by Epic and all that stuff. Even League of Legends does it to a certain degree. Where in your battle passes, premium or otherwise, you got loot boxes or drop crates or emotes or whatever the case was. It was scattered among everything that you possibly had. The only one that I think even for a while, I think even Fortnite on the premium one had ones that you would have essentially that were loot boxes. Here you unlock a weapon skin, but it's a random weapon skin. So this is nothing new. It just happens to be new since Overwatch added Battle Pass in particular. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. All these decisions just make me not want to play Overwatch, guys. I loved Overwatch. I played a bunch of Overwatch too. I reinstalled it. I was so excited when I got a brand new computer. Put that thing all the way to max, everything. And yeah, I understand that I'm in a love affair with Rivals right now, but I'm as we're sitting here, I'm literally uninstalling Overwatch 2. I'm not even joking. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I said a lot there. Again, Sleepy Giant Joe has lots of opinions on today's various gaming BS that's happening.
No, it's good. I like opinions.
Also, before we move on to other things, really fast, there's no new heroes in season 15. In case you were like, "Oh, there's gonna be new heroes," we do know that we are getting more heroes in the future.
Yes. In fact,
go ahead, Liz.
In season 16, we're getting Freja, who is a Finnish search and rescue operative turned into a bounty hunter because that's a natural career progression. So a lot of people seem really excited about her. She has hand crossbows, and I feel like she looks a lot like a Diablo 3 demon hunter, personally. That's my take on her, but we'll see. We'll see. Next season.
Her skin, somebody else described her as, we already have Ashe at home. So I do like that kind of point. But I don't think it's that bad.
Her skin does look like the proposed Diablo demon hunter skin for Overwatch that we saw a while ago. So Liz may be onto something here.
And also, since we're talking about Season 16, and Liz already mentioned Stadium, that is a mode that is coming. In addition to hopefully making it so I can go third person and maybe play the game, it's a 5v5 experience, so it's not 6v6, it's still 5v5. But then it's going to have the coins that you spend while you're playing, kind of like perks, but it's also kind of like, Plunder Storm or, Torghast in a way, and that you get these things and spend points on them, and then you get more of them and so forth as you go. Again, it feels like a PvE mechanic getting brought into a PvP game, so I'm not sure about how that's going to play out. But I'm excited just for the ability to at least play Overwatch, quite frankly. Go ahead.
The thing is, Overwatch ditched the PvE mode, the story mode, because they couldn't get it to work, basically. They couldn't get it to feel like a good gameplay experience. But now it does feel like they're taking some of those features they promised in this mode and clamping them onto the base game. So the question is, can you merge these two gameplay ideas? Because in fact, they've already told us we tried to do this and it didn't work, but now they're adding it back. I think talking with you through this, Joe, is I've kind of changed my mind. My thinking on this is flipped, and it's more like, can they make this work? How's it going to play? We're going to have to see. It just launched, so we're going to have to see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, it's an unknown, and we don't know how it's going to be received. And maybe it does, renew interest in the game. Maybe it does create an interesting play experience for players. Maybe it creates an experience that completely kills competitive play because people don't like perks, or the perks are always going to be exactly the same because there is only one mathematical thing you can pick for each hero that makes it the best in competitive mode, period. Who knows? We'll find out, but I won't find out because I literally have uninstalled the game. I will wait to see what people report on it. But yeah, though, it does. It feels like a lot like they're bolting on stuff from the single player game that would have been or a PvE experience. You tell me that this stuff is available in a PvE experience, I'd be all over it, right? You and your.
Wonder.
Go ahead, Phil.
It makes me wonder if maybe this was part of the PvE experience that did work, and they kind of filed it away to go, let's save this for later and we can make use of it, and scrap whatever did. Maybe the actual PvE story structure of gameplay wasn't working for them, but we had this cool perk system and we can bring that back in the future, maybe. Because it does feel like something that you could lift entirely out of its original context, which I would guess, like you guys are saying, they probably have. And just found a new mode for it. Also, I want to put this in here. I am surprised in a game that puts as much effort and art value, especially into creating pretty looking skins, that this is the first time I can remember being able to play the game in third person. I don't know about you guys. I never really wondered about skins in Overwatch because I wanted to look at them. They're not there for you to look at. They're there for me. It's kind of weird that you only get to see them at set times. I want to see my skin while I'm actually playing the game. So
they were there for play of the game, buddy.
Yeah, I'm ever going to get that.
The interesting thing, though, is if this is lifted from the PvE side that they were working on, and they claim that they didn't get PvE out there because they couldn't get it to work, which I remain skeptical about. I'm not going to lie. It makes me wonder what didn't work in PvE then. They say that it wasn't a satisfying play. Go ahead.
Yeah, it might be something as simple as the fact that they did not have any kind of method by which the narrative could exist. They don't really have an open world Overwatch.
Yeah, but okay, but here's the thing. In Overwatch 1, and we've talked about this a lot, they had PvE player experiences.
Yeah, but those were curated experiences in a single location, not
so
a PvE
why can't you do the same thing?
Well, I don't know, because that's what Titanfall 2 had, and Titanfall 2 had the best PvE experience I've ever played with that kind of structure. It was a shooter, and you drove around in a big robot and shot people, and it was great. It was, it was a single player experience where you went from place to place, and then you'd get to a point where it would move on to the next chapter. Why couldn't they do that here? I don't know, but it might have been a time thing.
Yeah, but
I have really no idea.
And that's what I'm curious about, because it makes me wonder why they couldn't just do what they did with the other PvE experiences, which is, okay, we're going to lay out the story in these segments. Here's 6 parts, and I'm just going to pick an arbitrary number. You queue for part 1 with friends or randos or by yourself with robots, and you go through and you play the experience just like you did in Overwatch 1, with the Omnic Crisis and all the other stuff that they released, or Junkenstein's Revenge, where it's a scenario, it's an arena shooter to begin with. Lean into it, and then it doesn't have to be this massive open world experience. It just has to deliver story. And again, and we've talked about this before, with Overwatch, even on when Lore Watch and even when Anne was with us, we had all these ways that they delivered story outside of game, and all they needed to do was put cutscenes inside of the game. And the game engine, can the game engine not handle cutscenes? It doesn't seem like that's really a problem. It seems like they can intersperse like the animated stuff that they do elsewhere and put it into the game as it is. So you have those story moments of like video or animation or whatever, then gameplay in arena where you like fight through an encounter or go chasing across a city with, against a specific villain or whatever, then back to another animation thing. And then you queue for the next one. Like, I would love more details on what didn't work in PvE and why they think this stuff will work in PvP. Like, I want more information, and I feel like this is just very sparse.
I think some of the problem might come down to the very simple fact that they were promising us a game in 2019.
Sure.
Then 2020 happened, followed by the 2021 Blitzpocalypse when the state of California brought their employee action against them. And then the massive, massive amount of people just leaving or being fired or vanishing in a puff of smoke. I'm looking at you, Jeff Kaplan. Who knows? I don't think it's going to take us a long time to get answers to those kind of questions.
If we ever have them. Personally, I feel like Jeff left because the game he wanted to make was not getting made. He was the one who got up on the BlizzCon stage and said, yeah, we're making this game. At press events, he really insisted this is not just Overwatch. This is Overwatch 2. It's a real sequel. It has this new game mode. It's going to tell all of these stories.
It's going to be a separate installation. It's going to be its own new game engine.
Yeah, he seemed really invested in this and really interested in building this game. And he's the one up there promising these things that Blizzard couldn't do. So that's the explanation I've come to in my head, that they weren't making the game he was after, and he bailed. And since then, the game has it's been a little iffy on its identity. It hasn't picked a direction to go.
Plus, we keep talking about them not doing the PvE mode, but we don't really mention that Michael Chu, who was their head writer, also left. If you're going to make a PvE game and your head writer takes off, that's a pretty big thing to have lost when that's what you're trying to do. So there's a lot of possibilities here. However, we've been talking a lot about this, and we probably need to move on.
We have.
So, gonna bring us to this Cataclysm Classic news from WoW. Dragon Soul's now out. It's live right now. So if you are playing Cataclysm, you are now on the last phase of Cataclysm Classic. There isn't anything else coming, guys. Dragon Soul's out. You are in the last content you're getting until Mists of Pandaria Classic.
Yeah, you got a few months.
Yeah, however long that takes, and we don't actually have any idea when that is. But whenever that happens,
probably summary
judgment.
We really don't have any Warcraft news this week. That's kind of shocking that there is. It's a week where kind of nothing happened in Warcraft. But of course, next week
the game's rolling, but there's no news.
They're letting us breathe after the onslaught of housing news that had everybody excited.
Undermine's going. We're getting the raids. It's just there's not much new to talk about. Yeah, next week
I'm sure we will have. Next week is the patch 11.1, so something's going to happen next week. We'll see how the launch goes. We'll see what's in there that we didn't expect. We'll see what's in there that we didn't know about. So lots of excitement next week, depending on how long maintenance is and whether we get to play before we get onto this podcast.
Yes. Some Diablo news. If you haven't been playing Diablo 4 and you want to try and catch up, not only is the Mother's Blessing out, but it also doubles the caches you can get from the Tree of Whispers, which, since this season is all involving the witchcraft and the Tree of Whispers and so forth, it's just a nice overall buff to a thing that is already pretty useful to if you're playing a seasoned character, getting your seasoned character up to max level as fast as possible.
So yes, this is a 35% bonus experience for the week and 50% extra gold, but gold is kind of just falling from the sky right now, so that's a little less interesting. And XP bonuses in Diablo 4 are multiplicative. So you take this 35%, you add it to the bonus, it gets put on top of the bonus for the difficulty level you're playing in. for the elixirs you're using, for the incenses you're using. Every little experience buff is a multiplicative buff. So another 35%, that can get kind of wild. Really help you get that last bit through your Paragon levels, finish the season journey. Maybe I haven't done that yet, but it's on my to-do list. Should probably work on that this week.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other problem when we're talking about, games you do and you don't play. Playing Diablo at all, much less playing both Diablo 4 and Diablo 3 to some extent, it's already like 35 to 55% of my brain is already playing Diablo at any given moment. And then I might try to play other games, and I'm playing. It gets kind of like the point where I almost feel like Overwatch is going to have to really go out of its way to rock me before I can go play it, because it's just like, how do I justify this? And it's like, I can't really justify Diablo 3 as it is, but I still play it. I can't really even help myself. It's 2:00 in the morning and I'm tired. I'll like, what's happening? I'm playing a Diablo. Which one is it? Oh, it's Diablo 3 this time. Okay, cool. Or the week where I kept logging into Diablo 2 Resurrected without really knowing why I was doing it. Diablo games they're like candy to me. I cannot stop playing them. So yeah, this is nice. It's a nice bonus, but what's really nice about it, in my opinion, is the fact that it shows that they are willing to adapt to Mother's Blessing depending on the season. And that's interesting.
Yeah, this is such a great fit for the season, because you are constantly doing whispers out in the world to complete your headhunts and collect the seasonal currency. Mm-hmm. And while this is available on Seasonal Realms and the Eternal Realms, you can use it for any characters anywhere. I think that getting the extra cash from the Tree of Whispers really is a really big buff for seasonal players.
Yep.
You're going to get twice the gear. There's also a Season's Blessing that can increase your chance of getting another cash from the Tree of Whispers.
Yeah.
So it is possible you could go to the tree, turn in your Whispers, and get three caches full of gear and gold and everything. So I think that's pretty fun. I'm going to have to make some time to play it this week. I don't know where I'm going to find that time, but
that's pretty exciting for me. I love ever since they upped the amount of stuff you get in the caches, I love opening it. It's like the ultimate dopamine hit of stuff falling out in Diablo, except so much so fast. So
yeah, they kind of explodes forth. Yeah,
it's like a slot machine going off. If they want to give me 2 to 3 caches, I'm not going to object. Maybe I'll play some Diablo 4 this weekend.
Also, patch 2.1.2 is going to be live next week. We're going to get a
right now.
Oh, I thought it said next week. Oh, it says live on Tuesday. So yeah, today is Tuesday. I knew that. I really did.
We are speaking to you from the past if you were listening to this on Friday or after Friday, but yes, the newest Diablo patch went live.
The new Nightmare Dungeon affix, which spawns the hard to find Forgotten Altars, and you can pet Dorian. Which Dorian?
Forgotten Altars. Okay.
I don't remember Dorian. Have I missed Dorian?
Okay, so you have missed Dorian. Dorian is the new Raven companion that you can get by finishing the season's journey. Oh. So he's a Raven, and he's pretty cool, but you couldn't pet him until now. Now you can pet him, which I do think is a notable point.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
a
absolutely.
line in the patch notes. It's very important. Of course,
yeah. I thought maybe this was about another Dorian that I know about, and I was like,
no,
it's
not.
From Veilguard? He just like threw up his hands. He's mad. He went to Diablo.
So that's good. The only problem is you have to finish the complete season journey to get Dorian, and they've really upped the difficulty of the last couple of levels of the season journey. So it's a tough one. And of course, part of the season journey is doing your witchcraft powers, which means finding forgotten altars that they spawn in dungeons, and they give you like extra hidden secret witchcraft powers that you can't just buy or earn through the season. So, and those are some great powers, like the Piranado, which is not, as I understand, like the best meta power, but if I get it, I am using it. I'm going to have a cloud of piranha around me. It's going to be great. But I don't have that because the Forgotten Altars spawn really rarely. I am up to like Paragon 168, I think, and I have seen one Forgotten Altar in all of that time. One. So now there will be Nightmare Dungeon affixes that will just say Forgotten Altars will be in here. So I am really looking forward to that. That's really going to help advance and get those last witchcraft towers.
Basically, according to Jason Schreier, Rod Ferguson said at DICE that they're not going to get the next Diablo 4 expansion until 2026. That doesn't tell us when in 2026.
No, but it does tell us that they're rethinking the cadence of content, or at least how long it's going to take to develop an expansion, because initially they were like, yeah, there's going to be annual expansions. We've got teams working on multiple expansions right now. And, we got our first expansion about a year after the game launched.
Yeah, late 2024.
And yeah, so you would have assumed that keeping up this annual thing that we would have gotten the next expansion late 2025. Now that is a no, it's coming up in 2026.
Yeah.
At some point.
Now, it doesn't mean that it could be like January of 2026. Maybe they pushed it back a few months, or maybe it'll be late.
That's still pushing it back like a quarter. So
yeah, 4 months. So yeah, it's still a pretty big deal, but it could also be much later. It could be end of 2026. We have no idea at the moment. I do think, however, that they put out so much content for Diablo 4 over the past 2 years of its existence that it is. I mean, not even 2 years, year and a half. Yeah, like year and a half at this point, right? Yeah, it's not been out very long, and so a lot of content, a lot of revamping, a lot of patches. Some of it, I mean, we could discuss what we thought of seasonal content, until we're blue in the face. But regardless, a lot's come out for it. I feel like, at least to some degree, it's not the end of the world that we don't immediately have whatever's coming in the next expansion. I
mean,
because
I also think more development time is good. I felt like the current Diablo expansion was a little half-baked. It felt like we got, kind of half of a story and it left off right when it was going to get interesting. So I wasn't really satisfied by the last expansion. It was like, okay, this is fine, but where's the rest of it?
It felt like they knew that too, because we got, that extra half as plot line kind of shoved in that didn't really have anything to do with the main story. It was if it means they'll give us a less half-baked experience than Vessel of Hatred, I'm all for it.
So I actually still don't think Vessel of Hatred was half-baked. I think that they did that on purpose. And I think they did it on purpose because they're sliding further and further into the MMO mindset. But to a degree, I don't think it works because you can't... There's not going to be a big patch for Vessel of Hatred with the other half of the story. And since that's not going to be the case, you can't just release half of the story and call it a day. I mean...
And then wait for a year and a half.
Yeah, wait until 2026.
Probably about the delay.
Yeah, absolutely. It is weird.
I do feel like this would make more sense if, as you say, Matt, we had kind of an MMO sort of patch cadence where we got a little more story, a little more story, a little more story. And I feel like that was kind of the game we were looking forward to when they first launched Diablo, that we would have seasons, that each one would have a little bit of story in it. And instead, the amount of story, the amount of new content we've gotten every season has been extremely sparse. It's like, okay, I can play this through in an hour and a half. And
it does have a little bit of story. It's just also entirely self-contained and has no bearing on the greater world of Diablo. At no point in Vessel of Hatred did someone say, hey, do you guys remember a couple months ago when a bunch of vampires attacked all over the continent? Wasn't that weird?
That doesn't really happen, yeah.
Yeah, Prava was never like, hey, thanks for going in that giant pit that appeared out of nowhere with your weird robot buddy. Hey, where's that guy at?
Yeah, it was weird. It was really weird. What's she talking about? I don't know.
I don't remember.
But yeah, so that's something to keep in mind as we talk about that. But we're going to move on because I'm trying desperately to get to the point where Joe gets to talk about NetEase. Hearthstone. Next expansion, Journey into the Emerald Dream. Release date is March 25th. So in a little more than a month, you will be going to the Emerald Dream in Hearthstone. And you can log in right now and get a freebie version of Ysera, brand new version, to celebrate the coming of this expansion. And now Liz is going to have to talk a lot. I'm really sorry, Liz. Take breaks. I don't know.
So this is another really interesting expansion. I feel like this year Hearthstone has kind of gone back to its roots and started making expansions that are really heavily themed and really dig into the Warcraft lore in interesting ways that are non-canonical, unfortunately. So you've got two kind of opposing factions represented here, the Emerald Dream and the Emerald Nightmare. Emerald Dream classes are Druid, Hunter, Mage, Paladin, Priest, and Shaman. They use the new Imbue keyword, which changes their hero power. We haven't seen all of them yet, but, like a Hunter might give an extra +1 attack to a beast in their hand and gets better after each use. So these do sound very cool. They will beef up your hero power, which most classes use that a lot already. On the Emerald Nightmare side, the classes are Death Knight, Demon Hunter, Rogue, Warlock, and Warrior, and they have a new Dark Gift mechanic, which is a discover-like mechanic.
Am I the only one who feels like the Rogue and the Warrior are like looking at each other going, are these guys evil? I think these guys are evil. Yeah, are we the baddies, buddy? It's like, well, I can sneak in and stab people in the back when they're not looking. That's kind of evil, right? Well, yeah, but is it that? And it cuts to the Death Knight, raising someone from the dead, and the Demon Hunter bursting into Fel, and the Warlock conjuring a demon, and they're like, I yell and hit people. I guess I could yell some curse words. Yeah, rallying cry. Yeah, no, taunt is, your mother is a hamster in Draconic. And the dragon's like, what did you say? But regardless, yeah, that's interesting keen balance. Go ahead, Liz.
Yeah, so again, it's kind of digging into the Warcraft lore. It's playing different ways with different classes, which I think is always a fun thing. We've seen this in a few expansions before, not obviously Emerald Dream themed, but different ways different classes play a little differently. Each class will either get a Wild God Dream or a Corrupted Wild God Nightmare as a legendary. So it's just, we're going for the Emerald Dream theme. One thing that's interesting about this is that we actually knew this was coming in advance. For the first time this year, Hearthstone released a roadmap. So we knew that there was an Emerald Dream expansion coming. And this is just today we got the details on it. So that is very cool. The other thing we got today is new Hearthstone Battlegrounds content. That's the only thing I'm really excited about. I know I just talked all about the Emerald Dream, but actually Battlegrounds is what I am here for. We got the Battlegrounds mid-season patch has just gone live. It adds anomalies to the game. One of the complaints we've had about Hearthstone Battlegrounds this season is that it feels it's a little bland, because usually Battlegrounds add a new mechanic, a new something that happens during the season. So this season didn't have that. But now, middle of the season, they're adding anomalies, which is something we first saw back in season 5, I think. And basically, at the beginning of each match, an anomaly occurs. And the anomaly can be any of a bunch of different things. We have a bunch of new ones this time. So it could be like the tavern offers an extra tavern spell after you refresh. Or I played a match this afternoon where every minion was golden. It's like, there's no need to make a minion golden. They're just that way. All of the minions that everyone gets are just super powerful out of the gate. You might get the tavern only offers cards from your tier, so you'll be getting more powerful cards. You won't wind up where you're up at tier 5 and you keep refreshing and it's just tier 1 and tier 2 cards. It's like, no, I want the powerful stuff. So this will shake up games. This will make each game play a little differently, which that's fun. I think it's fun when you have different ways to play that change things up. So this is a great addition. Anomalies are not my favorite of the weird tweaks for the season, but it is something new, and I think that is fun. But
and you're getting new ones, returning ones, and revamped ones. So some of them have actually been redesigned as well.
Yeah, so there are a lot of anomalies to play with. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this plays. I frankly have not been playing a lot of Battlegrounds, just because it's like, this is the same. This match is the same. Yeah. So this'll change that up. But perhaps the most exciting thing is that we're getting 3 new heroes from StarCraft, which all of these sound really awesome. And in the match I played today, I absolutely got steamrolled by Kerrigan, who she can... It's no surprise. It's you get that kind of Zergling Rush thing where she can unlock more and more powerful Zerg to summon. And it starts off as a very expensive hero power for 7 gold, but each turn it costs less. So the further you get into the game, the easier it is to summon different and more powerful Zerg. So that one is really cool. Then we, of course, have Raynor for representing the Terran faction. He has a battle cruiser. He can summon a battle cruiser, and there are different upgrades that he can add to it throughout the match. He will get unique battle cruiser cards that he can buy when you get Refresh the Tavern. So he has a battle cruiser, and he's just constantly buffing it up. Again, that one's going to be really fun to play with. And for the Protoss, you get Artanis. He has
finally
a warping power.
I cared.
Where at the start of the game, you can choose 2 Protoss minions that you get after you buy 16 cards. This is the one that's going to be the most questionable of them because, so what are these minions going to be? It sounds like they're going to be specific to Artanis, only things Artanis can pick up. And, how powerful are they? Buying 16 cards, that is going to take you a bit of time. Yeah. Yep. That's going to take a while. So it could be that you have a slow early game, and then you're going to hit a big power boost when you buy those 16 cards. New heroes are always exciting. They always shake up the meta. So I am looking forward to playing some more Battlegrounds. And I'm gonna stop talking now. Whoa!
Yay! Congratulations. Well, we've gone through pretty much all the Blizzard news, and we are now at a part where we're going to talk about non-Blizzard stuff. And so, since Joe doesn't want to talk about NetEase, we're gonna. No, I'm kidding, Joe. Rivals layoff thing. You're up.
Yeah. So this goes into something we were talking about earlier, where. Today, right at the same time, we were getting news of the second portion of the current season of Marvel Rivals and the vision moving forward. We found out that NetEase was laying off, at the very least, its U.S.-based employees. Now, they were based in Seattle. We don't know a full number of those affected, I don't believe. But
no, I haven't heard one.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is, I think people's reactions to it is very, very interesting. It is an absolute tragedy that these people are losing their job, but everybody is like, well, this game was wildly successful. Why are they laying people off? It's a free-to-play game, right? And right now, it's early enough as a live services game that there's not a whole lot of monetization in it. So going back to what I was talking about earlier, where games have and I think this was pre-show when I was ranting about this, I apologize, time's a blur. But games in the last quarter and first quarter of a year, it's very difficult for them to post well because you don't know what your projection is going to be. And in this particular case, we don't know how much money they've been making off of the live services. None of that's been reported yet. It's about to be. We're coming up on the end of a financial quarter. And as a result, stuff like this is not uncommon. And I'm not saying this is a good thing. I'm not saying this is, I'm not trying to justify it. I'm just saying it's not surprising. And again, one of the easiest ways to shore up your financial reporting is headcount, because headcount is overhead. And it's the easiest thing you can control when you're trying to make your numbers look better than they are. Also, I still think the vast majority of the developers for the game were in China with NetEase. So
yeah.
We don't know what percentage was laid off. We don't know the total number of people. It was at least one level designer that we know of that's been very vocal. One of the, I believe, game directors, the US game director, was laid off as well. But there's also a game director in China. There's also level designers there. So it's still very early in it, and it still sucks, just plain out, but it's not terribly surprising. Again, gangbuster game. It's a really great game. It's fun to play, but it is free. And if it's not making money hand over fist, that's what companies do. It's sad, but it's true.
Yeah, I've heard a couple of comments to the effect also that this might be typical MO for NetEase, and maybe it's just the fact the visibility of Rivals is the first time that people are kind of aware of this kind of business model. I've also heard it might actually be less of a business move and more of, business and also a geopolitics move.
I brought that up in chat earlier today, I think, too. Yeah,
I think you might be onto something there, too. It does suck for at least the people who got cut, but I don't think it's unprecedented, unfortunately.
No, and it's something that I think people are going to be paying more attention to, and probably should be paying more attention to. We're not here to talk about politics. That's not what you come here to listen to, but it is something that I think is relevant in the game space, especially with the news here. And as things in North America get messier, this might not be the last time we see something like this. This could be a reaction to it. This could be something to do with that and trying to disentangle from that, because it may have added way more complicated layers to it, monetarily, legally, than they wanted to deal with. And in the coming months, other games that are based in China that have U.S. support, or other parts of the world in general that have U.S. components to it, we don't know if this is going to happen to them either. So something to keep your eyes peeled for and be cognizant of in the gaming industry, I think, moving forward.
All right. Since we have time and I wanted to talk about it, Avowed is finally out if you're not doing early access. If you were doing early access, you've gotten to play it for like a week or so. I have thoughts, and the first thought is that Avowed is very much like what you would get if Obsidian made like Oblivion, the Elder Scrolls Oblivion. It feels very similar in a lot of ways, both good and bad. It does not feel like the most inventive and strange and unique game I got to play recently was Pentiment, and that's an Obsidian game that's just
really
crazy.
Cool.
It's a really cool, crazy little game. I'm just going to tell you to go play it. I'm not going to try and explain it to you. But it's like they got all their weird, funny, original ideas out there, and then they released what is, to me, a very good but bog standard fantasy role-playing game of this type. And if you've played anything from Bethesda, you have played this. Now, keep in mind, I'm very early in the game, and it's starting to show signs of going off the rails in the best way possible. That's what Obsidian does really well. They get you started up on something, and then they pick an exact moment to just, oh, you're riding on a train. Huh? Kick. Train goes off the rails. Now you're like, what happened? Where are we? Oh, you're in the desert. Figure it out. That is feeling like that could happen. And I feel like that is part of the reason people love Obsidian as a game developer, is that they can't really be sure what they're going to do. Like the game, anybody who's played Fallout New Vegas knows Obsidian, while holding to the structure of the thing you're doing, like this is a Fallout game, it will feel like a Fallout game. It will also go to the weirder places of the Fallout universe. This is based on their Pillars of Eternity game series. It's the World of Aora is the IP from that. So this is their baby to mess with. This isn't them taking somebody else's game. But when you realize Obsidian is the people who make the Outer Worlds, and Outer Worlds 2 is currently in development, and I think it'll be out this year, won't it? Yeah.
Yes.
So
yes, it will.
I feel like to a certain degree, they've made the decision to be more conservative with this game out of the gate, because the Outer Worlds doesn't know what conservative means. And that definitely comes through in some of the voice acting choices. I'm sorry, when Brandon Keener shows up and literally does the Garrus voice, and it's not disguised in the slightest. He's Garrus. That is what Garrus sounds like. He's doing the Garrus drawl and everything. I've heard Brandon Keener speak when he's not doing Garrus. He still sounds very similar, but it's a different voice. It's not the same. This wasn't hey, that's the same voice actor. That was Shepard? Like, seriously, I frankly felt like I should have named my character Shepard because of just how Garrus-y he was being. I feel like with Obsidian, this is one of two possibilities. One, they are taking the urinary. They're taking the urine. Or they are going to play it straight as long as they can. And I almost want to see what that looks like. What does an Obsidian game look like when it doesn't mess with your head? And the thing is, at the same time, there are some ethical choices in this game already. I'm like 5 hours in. I've already had to make some decisions that were pretty like, meh. Do I leave this person to die in this horrible place, or do I save them even though it's inconvenient for me? But it is inconvenient, and there is that loot over there, but the person, the moral choices are pretty much what Obsidian usually does, where like there's a choice, there's a morally gray choice, and then there's a morally black choice. And those are the choices you get. but I like it. I think it's good. The facial creator is something. If you played Veilguard, it's the Veilguard creator. Straight up, it's a different look, but it's the same kind of massive amounts of choice, but with some, you can just pick a template if you want and just get through it and have a character, or you can do what I do and spend 2 hours just making your character.
I was like, who just takes a template? Who are
Yeah,
those
no. It's one of those things where you're like, yeah, okay, sure, I'm going to use that. I'll use that just as a starting point, but then I'm going to completely change this up. And if for some reason you don't want to have fungus growing out of your head, you can turn the fungus off. I don't feel like that's a spoiler because it's like literally the first thing you see when you make your character is that you can have fungus growing out of your head. You don't have to. You can turn the fungus off and not have to see it. I did that because it was completely ruining my hair deal that I had going. But overall, so far, like it. It didn't. I think one of the things it didn't do that was a pretty good choice is they didn't do what Obsidian usually does and didn't get you shot in the head or frozen or whatever. Like usually with an Obsidian game, you come out of it really fast and it's like, oh, go, go, go. This one didn't do that. This one, you start your character, you wake up on a beach, you're like, oh, why are we on a beach? And then you go from there. And I think that to a certain degree, it'll be easier for people who are not used to Obsidian games to play this. However, if you get really frothing at the mouth mad when a game lets you pick they, them as your pronouns, you're going to hate this game because it does. And quite frankly, good riddance to you. I don't. But regardless, the game lets you do that. The game lets you choose between 4 voices, but the protagonist is not voiced. Mm-hmm. They don't say their line after you choose it. You just choose it and then it moves on. Yeah, it's an Obsidian-y fantasy game. That's what it is. Thank God it has third person, so I don't make myself sick half the time playing it. But yeah, that's it. I think it's good. I do think that the early access, 5-day early access thing, we've talked about it in the pre-show. I think it's a weird choice, but whatever. I'm playing it now, so there you go. I don't think anyone else has anything else to say about it.
No, I haven't gotten to play it.
I haven't picked it yet.
It's on the list. It's
right
on the list somewhere, but there are so many things on the list.
The list at this point is like, sitting in your basement going, come to me, come to me.
Yeah.
But now we move on to the site news because Liz, you do the site news and usually do it now. So if you don't mind.
Yes. And I don't think we're going to have time for questions again this week. I was really going to answer some questions this week. And I'm sorry for those of you who have submitted questions. We will get to them. We will get to them on a slow news week, which certainly next week will probably be a slow news week.
Why did you say this? Why? Why did you do that? Why?
Oh, no. This will be done to us.
So I just want to say thank you all for supporting the site. I usually read off new supporters here, but we did not have anyone new show up this week, which is fine. I get it. It's expensive to exist in the world, but if you can support us out there, your support helps keep this site alive. It lets the site thrive and grow, and it lets us produce these podcasts, which I hope you are enjoying, because if you aren't enjoying, I'm sorry, and also you should turn it off. Life is too short to listen to things you do not enjoy. So, if you subscribe at $3 a month, you will get early access to these podcasts. You will get a better chance of us answering your questions on the podcast, which I really promise we're going to do some questions next week. We're going to find a way to answer some questions. And so thank you if you support us. Thank you everyone who supports us. Thank you to all of those people who have been supporting us from the beginning. We have people that after all of this time supported us on day 1. And wow, that you help this site. But every dollar helps if you can. Please support us on Patreon, patreon.com/BlizzardWatch, or check out the website at blizzardwatch.com. Liking, sharing podcasts, sharing YouTube videos, anything like that really helps the site, and we appreciate it, and we appreciate you. I do want to give another reminder about our Tavern Watch podcast, which is now on its own feed. It is all about tabletop gaming, and we are going to have a new episode next week, which is actually the 4 of us, all talking about tabletop news, including Fall in London, which I am very excited about, but I have to wait a year. So, if you are interested in that, search for Tavern Watch in your podcast player of choice. And thank you for your support.
All right, thank you, Liz. Or used to turn to Joe here, but Liz handles it every week, so it's great. We can just say goodbye. No, that's really good. We're very happy. If you want to do the goodbye too, you can. I'm totally okay with that.
Oh gosh, yeah, you're throwing this at me?
No, I'm just saying if that's what you want to do. If you wanted to do it in the future, go ahead. I'm going to do it now because I'm here.
Okay, go for it.
This has been the Blizzard Watch podcast. If you guys have a question for the show, and we will get to them eventually, guys, promise. You can either email them to us at podcast@blizzardwatch.com, or you can go to our Discord server and you can ask questions in the Q and podcast questions channel for everybody. Or if you're a supporter on Patreon, you can ask us the Patreon Q and podcast questions channel. We look there first because you guys help pay the bills and stuff. It would be nice if you told us what podcast you want your question on. And if you have any unusual spelling or pronunciation of your name that you want us to get right, you could totally tell us there, because we look and we make sure if we can. It's something we do want to say your name correctly, even if it's got 3 Q's in it. We will find a way, but just help us. It would be nice. But this has been the Blizzard Watch podcast. Thank you guys so much for being here with us, and we'll be back next week.